know that more than 160,000 people have been displaced, dozens killed, and attacked as tension are rising in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. A total of about 3.5 million inhabitants affected by the violence. Women and girls are particularly affected by the violence. Most young girls are raped even in broad daylight. Babies killed in the hands of their mothers. A majority of displaced families have found refuge in the forest. And today we are particularly concerned about the situation of women and young girls in a crisis situation. We're talking about the northwest and southwest regions of the country. Now, what is the role of women in ending the crisis? The program is Turn Up. Stay with us. Turn Up, a program that seeks to empower women and the girl or child. And today we focus on women and the crisis. We continue to have testimonies of more women trapped in between the bullets, and they're here to tell us about their testimony, how they witness or how they are witnessing or handling the situation on the ground. We have so many who prefer to live in their zones, though they are facing the situation that is on the ground. And we have invited just the right women to talk about this very important subject. If you want to participate on the program, you can write to us on the number you're seeing on your TV screens. You can equally tag us on Facebook and on YouTube. You just need to write Ndih Turn Up. I have all our past editions. We'll be right back after the jingle. To know who our guests are. We are all women to talk about the crisis situation in the northwest and southwest regions of the country and how probably we can put an end to the crisis. You know, women are the most vulnerable in crisis situation. My first guest is somebody who is very close to me. She's called Madame Sally Bomu. She is of the women's activist. Can I say rights activist or women's rights activist? Also the founder of SNOT.
I'm not the founder of SNOT. I am the Northwest
Regional Coordinator of SNOT. It's very important for us to make those precisions.
Yeah, the founder of SNOT is Madame Umam Estanjomo of Reach Out Cameroon Boya. I am the founder of Comagen, Common Action for Gender Development, which is a CBO that I run. But I am the regional coordinator of SNOT.
Now, how do you relate the two?
Okay, basically, SNOT is a coalition of women-led organizations like Comagen, Reach Out, and many other organizations that form the coalition SNOT. And SNOT is the Southwest Northwest Women's Task Force, which from its name tells you that it accommodates women from the Northwest and the Southwest who practice their activism as women leaders or just women leaders in the society.
So, which means that those who are part or make up your association, but to know SNOT, there are women from the northwest and the southwest regions
those who make
of the
up
country.
SNOT are women from the northwest and the southwest who have either civil society organizations or they are women leaders in the communities. They could be political leaders, religious leaders, traditional leaders. But if you identify with the northwest and the southwest region, then you are an eligible.
Which means they have different organizations.
Yeah, we have.
And they try to reach out to other women.
We have under SNOT. SNOT is a coalition.
Okay.
It's good we should specify that. It's a coalition, which means it's constituted of other organizations that have come together to form SNOT. It is, I said we have civil society organizations within SNOT. We have women leaders who represent different factions within the community. We have members of SNOT who are leaders of FIDAL, for instance, the Lawyers Association. We have so many other organizations, BAWA, we have so many that constitute SNOT.
Now, why did you decide to come together?
Okay, basically, given the fact that SNOT is constituted of civil society organizations, they started the response to the humanitarian crisis that came as a result of the present crisis plaguing the regions. So with the growing number of internally displaced persons, each association was doing something in its own place. Our founder and vision bearer, Madam Esther Oman Njomo of Reach Out, came together with some other women and tried to see how we could harness our forces as women, because each society, each leader was doing her own bit in her own corner.
So you thought that by mobilizing, by coming as one body in a coalition, you could make a force.
A force to reckon with. So SNOT came together under the umbrella of looking for a way that women can contribute meaningfully in ending the current crisis and pushing so strong the role of women in peace building processes to be sure that women are recognized as an integral part of the solution.
And for how long have you been existing?
We've been existing for 11 to 12 months.
That's almost a year.
Almost a year. It started June 2018.
All right. I just want to tell our viewers that you were part of those who were in the Northwest when the Prime Minister just visited, and we're actually leading the women. Now, we'll talk more about you. We also have Madame Belgeline Nzomo, the Deputy General Secretary of Cameroon's People's Party. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Marie.
How are you today?
It's going to be okay. We have to manage our pain, we have to manage our deception, we have to manage many things, and we have to stand strong to face all these unthinkable things that are happening to us here in Cameroon.
Okay, just to make our viewers know that you have an upcoming event where you're mobilizing women, you're struggling to put an end to the crisis.
Yes, not only today that we are working around the crisis, before the crisis, because we saw the crisis coming. Yes, at the eve of Boko Haram, we say be careful, because the situation in the Boko Haram, the thing that brought Boko Haram in country is poverty, is uneducation, and is the same situation with many Cameroonians, and it can erupt everywhere that you find such solution. And less than 2 years, we have the situation in Norway. So we were aware of the situation, and when it happened, we stand as a political party, and we mobilize ourselves to act, to find a solution. Yeah, we stand to stop it, and a lot of things were done. We were in Northwest.
You're actually on the field to actually see what's happening. You're talking with some of these women.
Yes, not only in Bamenda, because people think that when they are in Bamenda, it means that they face the crisis. We were in front, deeply on the front. Ewu, Batibo, Belo, we went all these areas.
Visited all these areas.
We visited all these areas. We meet population, we meet even the separatists on the field, because you cannot do that field without
meeting. You have made a number of recommendations to government on
yes, we made a lot, and I think after recommendation is now time of acting. So I cannot go far before without greeting strong women, all women, Cameroonian women. We are facing all this situation.
In the crisis situation, and they're going through tough times.
Yes, because you have to know, because like their organization are dealing with only Northwest and Southwest, but as a political. I was talking about your platform, about the you are more talking about the
platform. So you talk about that, because the platform extends to other regions of Cameroon.
Yes, and we are nation eye open on the situation of Cameroonian. We have more than 8 countries. We have 8 regions with deep security problem, and most of the time women are the one we suffer much. So I'm greeting all these strong women facing all these hard situation, hectic situation in Cameroon, and mostly women of Northwest and Southwest, because they are the one today who are seeing blood every day, who are seeing heads over the way, who are raped every day. So together we are going to find
a solution to the problem. Now, Madame Sally, your organization spreads to other parts of Cameroon.
Like I said from the introduction, maybe I didn't introduce SNOT very well. I said SNOT has to do with women leaders whose activism fall within the Northwest and the Southwest region, which means if you have concern for the Northwest and Southwest region, you are eligible to be a member of SNOT. Okay. Personally, we have members in Douala. Okay. We have members in Yaoundé. It depends if you share the vision of SNOT, that is being apolitical and neutral in our approach to seeking for solutions in solving the current crisis. All right. Now, I want us to watch this report by Dominic Meme. He actually presents the situation on the ground. He's talking about the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions of Cameroon. He's telling us how women are trapped in between the bullets, how babies or mothers are being killed. Some are left even to bury their children all alone. Let's watch this story. We'll be right back.
Women are generally referred to as the weaker sex. In the face of armed conflict in the northwest and southwest of Cameroon, the vulnerability of women and girls in Cameroon have further been highlighted. First, the sacredness of women and girls in the Anglophone regions of Cameroon have been reduced to nothing as rape is being used as a weapon of war. For instance, in Bambwe in the northwest region of the country 2 weeks ago, an 18-year-old girl raped by 3 unidentified gunmen and dumped in a nearby bush. This is not an isolated case, as many other cases of rape abound in Ako subdivision, Jakiri, Manyo, Libialem, and many more. Human rights groups have been pointing accusing fingers on both the military and Ambazona fighters for not respecting womanhood. The killing of women and girls, civil society groups in Cameroon and beyond say, remains the most pathetic episode of the Anglophone crisis. Fresh in our minds is the shooting to death of a 5-month-old neighbor, Martha Mbu, in Makanga Quarter, Muyuka subdivision of the southwest of Cameroon on the 20th of May. Parents and neighbors of the child point accusing fingers on the Cameroonian military. Despite this, the government of Cameroon has not issued any official statement. In February 2019, a female patient was burnt alive at the Kumba District Hospital in Meme Division. Following the barbaric incident, the Ambazona boys and the military engaged in a verbal battle of accusation and counter-accusations, of which side was responsible. In Kombo, in the northwest of Cameroon, a female nurse shot dead by a supposed stray bullet. Months after the incident, no one has investigated to point out the defaulters. Besides the killing of women in the course of the crisis, hundreds of men that have died so far since the beginning of the Anglophone crisis were breadwinners of their families. Today, widows are left alone to shoulder the huge responsibility of parenting for their kids. With thousands of internally displaced persons from the 2 Anglophone regions of Cameroon, women constitute the bulk of the number. Some of them have, without any choice, joined the prostitution industry in towns and cities across the country. Others, without shelter against their consciences, offer themselves as sex workers just to have a place to sleep. Internally displaced persons in their newfound settlement in forests use bark of trees as sanitary pads, while pregnant women do not receive antenatal care in the course of pregnancy. With thousands of women and girls affected by the Anglophone crisis, the agricultural sector in the 2 English-speaking regions of Cameroon is dying down. Women that hitherto constituted the workforce are not longer there. As the government keeps contradicting itself on what form of dialogue to better resolve the crisis, women, girls, or better still, the mother of humanity is gradually but slowly being reduced to a slave and an outcast of humanity in the 2 restive regions of Cameroon.
ozali kolo ya mayele nanga ebo motuna.
I'm surrounded by women, most of whom have spent most of their times in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. Now, the first question I want to ask, now, what's the situation on the ground? We're talking about women. What is the condition under which these women live? What's the situation in the northwest and southwest regions as regards the women?
Okay, following international report, we have 68% of internally displaced women who are suffering because of the crisis within Cameroon, especially in the English-speaking regions. You ask me, what is the situation? The situation is a slave that has been gradually transformed from dignified women who used to be the power and symbol of life. We have women who have become household heads with 15 to 20 mouths to feed, and ironically they do not have farmlands to go get food. And you and I know that the northwest and the southwest setting particularly, their livelihood comes from farming. With the numerous lockdowns, most of them were into petty trading, which they can no longer follow up. With the numerous fires from the different markets in the northwest region and even in the southwest, some of these women are out of business. And we realized they used to do petty trading, that they take little loans from microfinances and run their day-to-day life. With the constant lockdown, most of them have been able to become bankrupt. They can no longer run their businesses. We have some situation of women living in bushes, like we go into the bushes to meet these women. Their houses are these cocoa ovens of those in the southwest who remember the cocoa oven where we dry our cocoa. That's where they stay. Very rich women. We want to call them rich women. Thanks to aid from CSOs that come in, they use the mosquito nets as the walls of their house. Now, when we look at the situation of women in the English-speaking region, it's that of pain and misery. It is that of rejection. It is that of abandonment. It is that of constant push. That kind of a person who has reached completion point, where sometimes I feel they are numb with pain, because the pain is just too much. They watch their children die. They watch their husbands die. And sometimes they break into their houses and kill these men in front of them, rape their children in front of them. If you say qualified women from the English-speaking regions, I will say we look at a wreck woman with agony and pain and nowhere to cry. Because nobody, I say nobody, within these factions that be, seems to consider how much humanitarian damage has been done to this women.
All right, Virgiline, can we say the situation is getting worse by the day and more women are getting trapped in the crisis?
That's the reality, Maureen. We don't have to turn around words. The situation is worse and is worsening every day. Out of physical violence that these women are facing, we have to think about the psychosocial effect of what they are seeing. Sally talk about rape, Sally talk about killings, Sally talk about wounds, and so on and so forth. Can you imagine in such society, Northwest and Southwest, who were deeply in their tradition, clearly division of task in the society, that women today are digging grave? Are they the one who have to dig the grave? No, but they are doing it today. How can be inside a woman digging a grave to bury her husband, to bury her son, to bury her neighbor, to bury even a corpse that she found laying without knowing who he is? Because you cannot live with a corpse near you, and we know that there are corpses fleeing, coming from everywhere. Then you have to take care of. So you have such situation. Out of physical damage, there are psychological damage, and is as important, I would say, dangerous as the situation that are going on. So the crisis is more than 3 years that the situation started. there is no solution, because as we are talking, this crisis is going on. It means that the situation is worsening.
Okay. Now, when's the last time you visited the Northwest region or the Southwest region?
I was in Northwest exactly. I spent my end of year in Northwest. Yes, I was there, not for enjoyment, but to do my work, to my politician, activists, and everything work.
And
yes.
You talked to the women. Where were you exactly? Who did you talk to? Who did you visit?
We talk to women every day, because we usually have somebody here representing Mothers of the Nation. CPP is member of a coalition called Stand Up for Cameroon. And we didn't stand up for Cameroon, we have Mothers of the Nation. And Mother of Nation is deeply implicated in the solution, on the crisis in the Northwest. So there is no one day that we cannot talk to these women, because we have branches.
Now, what did the women tell you?
Maureen, what do you want them to tell me out of? It's not good here. We are suffering. Every conversation that you can have with them, please help us. I lost my child yesterday. My neighbor died the other day. My husband was killed. My grandmother was burned. Our hospital was burned. Our church, everything. These are the conversations you have with women.
And then what do you tell the women?
What we talk to women? Yes.
What do you tell them?
There is no more. There is, I think our conversation with them is clear. You need to stand to stop this crisis. The solution of this crisis rely on us.
The women.
Clearly, the women.
Yes. All right, Sally, you have been in the Northwest. You are in the Northwest region. You have been facing the crisis. You decided to stay back to fight for these women. Now, how often, because you go to the bushes, you talk to the women and the rest, what do these women tell you?
Generally, what the women say is an expression of pain, an expression of frustration.
They want the crisis to come to an end.
And a wish to see the crisis come to an end. But it's good in this conversation, we should understand what a woman in pain within that context can say. Because now, remember, the Northwest and Southwest, before the crisis, is a strictly patriarchal society. With structures that gives the man an upper hand and the woman the followership. So women have always been like, the men take the lead. So with this crisis and the turn of action that they have become family heads, when we hold a conversation with them, making it clear that they need to stand up, becomes
because it's not just like meeting them and just talking with them. No, you need to know that the solution can obviously come from them.
You normally start a conversation with a wounded person, like what SNOT does. I will speak for SNOT. The women within SNOT are mostly CSOs who have this humanitarian touch, because that's one of the arms of SNOT. Is the humanitarian task force. So when they go out for distribution, it is more of a psychosocial support. You go in.
But the women, most of them are traumatized already.
You try to talk to them.
Now,
but I want to be very frank. The distance that we have with women standing up is quite much. Some of us who've gotten to that position of talking and taking women into leadership, we should understand that we are dealing with a crisis that has a lot of manipulation. We are dealing with a crisis that has a lot of pretense from the powers that be. Like, we do not see a lot of good faith in certain things. And most of the planning as a women's rights activist does not consider gender issues. Because if you look at the leadership on both camps, it has very little or nothing to do with consideration of gender balance. Now here we are talking about the people who feel the pain. And if we look at the resolution 1325, the UN Security Council resolution 1325, it tells us the importance of women in peace building. Now these are people who live the crisis. These are people who experience the crisis. These are people who see the actions. Like Dumo said, when the soldiers come, the women meet them. When the Amazonian fighters come, the women meet them. When people die, the women see them. So they are like the data, the raw data of the crisis. And they have to be harnessed as a resource to the solution to the crisis. But as we speak, I doubt whether any meaningful consultation has been done considering the position of women. I want to say, like a member of SNOT, that women need to start hijacking space. We need to hijack spaces to make ourselves felt, because we are the victims of the crisis and automatically makes us the solution of the crisis.
Now, after talking to most of these women, we've seen very few women come out. Your recent move with the Prime Minister in Bamenda, where you were actually leading, we saw women. Were they just enough, knowing the number of the, I mean, we have so many women.
That is where the trick is. And that's where I think the convergence point is. Because we want to understand that this crisis has the humanitarian face and it has the political face. And if we look at our society, the way it's structured, women always shy away from politics. That's why you see...
Is it that after you've seen your baby being killed or your family, and then you're still afraid to move on, to go to a dialogue table?
It's not a question of being afraid. It's a question
or
of
is it
us,
ignorance?
Yeah, the main issue here is that women, through patriarchal tendencies, through the political labeling that takes place because you're a woman, have been silenced. Their voices have been silenced. I wish to say that
society made it that way.
Yes, I wish to say that if you are not a strong woman, within the crisis where we are, you will be silenced. Because even me seated here, the controversies on whom I am is something that will silence anyone.
Yeah, of course, we're going to talk about this controversy because it's a lot about you, to know about your true identity, because people think that maybe you're being manipulated or maybe you were paid to do that. But now I want to talk to Belgeline. Sorry about that. Do you think women are really like ignorant of their rights? After going through a lot, you still sit back and you cannot wake up to say, I need to say no to this. You need some other person or some other woman to come and tell you that no, you need to wake up and let's all say no to that.
Maureen, at first, women have to save their life. When guns start shooting, they have to save their life first. They have to try to keep what can be kept aside of all this safe before asking herself, where am I and what am I going to do? And for time, they rely on our government to say that they will bring solution to the crisis. And for 3 years, there is no solution. Yes, it may be true that they are not standing yet like saying that it's too much, we have to stop. But it's a general situation politically. It's not only a DNA from Northwest and Southwest. Cameroonians, it's difficult to mobilize Cameroonian due to the environment who is violent with those who gather together to say this must change and this must be this must be like that, and remind to the government this is what you are going to do. They don't like that, and all is always ended with violence. And the crisis in the Northwest is the same situation. They respond with violence to a peaceful ask, to the peaceful willing of the people. So I will not put it on that way that they are afraid, because
you don't see fear in anything.
I will not say we are generation of strong women. Don't forget that Takumen, if you know about Takumen, they are from that region. If you know about Anlu, before inside the traditional society, if you know about Anlu, you will understand that never women were afraid. It's just that we have a violent context. We have a violent government which with whom it's difficult to act when it's about situation that accuse them of not doing good.
All right, Madam Saleh, now, who were the women crying in the Northwest?
The women crying in the Northwest, just like in the Southwest, are market women, buy and sellers. They are Christians from different churches within the Northwest regions. And they are women who've lost children. They are women who've lost their husbands. They were not paid, they were not bought.
Are they women from the Northwest?
They were from the Northwest.
They were not, are they not women that were imported into Bamenda? Because that's what has been, a trending.
If the media followed the protest, for instance, from the Northwest, it started at Commercial Avenue with just about 30 women. And when we moved through Food Market, Main Market, right down to Commercial Avenue, that's how the line kept growing until we had over 170 women in the street.
So no woman was imported from anywhere or from the West region to come back. Actually, if you even watch on the social media, because since you're here, and you think we need to talk about it, we have some personalities even infiltrated.
I will want to fight that word, infiltrated, because it's like we are struggling to say that the crisis in Cameroon is happening in space. It's happening within a social context. It's within an environment. And I want to speak for myself and SNOT that I represent. When SNOT got whims of that the PM will be coming to the Northwest, it's good for our viewers to understand that SNOT did not start that day when the PM came. We are a household name. We've been meeting some other persons. Is that when you assume,
you've been working on the ground?
Yes, if you assume the role of mediator, because if I from the objectives and aims of SNOT, then you will understand we are working towards being mediators in bringing the two factions together, because we are not a political opinion. We are just women struggling to point to both factions, the excesses, the humanitarian concerns that are on the ground, and we are calling them to action. So we had been working on the ground with both factions. Some of us have been abroad to talk to the other factions. Some of us have gone abroad, like our general coordinator, to the UN Security Council, using her organization Reach Out. She spoke there and presented SNOT and the humanitarian concern. I seated here, I've been to the US, I've spoken with all Southern Cameroonians People Conference, where I presented a paper on the humanitarian concerns. Now, the PM, just like any other person, was seen by SNOT as part of the factions involved in the crisis. And there was no way the PM could be coming to the Northwest and the women don't tell him what they want. They spoke to him. The PM and every other person who was there listened to market women. 10 of them talked to him because they said we have something to say. Which
means it was not staged, you were not paid to do that.
Women spoke their minds. The women gave their leaders. There are some media houses who have the video on tape when those women were talking who will represent them.
Now, after the Southwest region, where you were actually crying and mourning, and after what you did recently, what next? Is it all about crying and mourning and there's no further step to that? Because after that, we don't see any next step you're taking.
That is where there is always a problem when you don't understand the mission of the people. SNOT has 3 arms. I will still repeat. The humanitarian, mediation, advocacy, and lobbying.
So at what level are you right now?
We are within advocacy. We were lobbying. So
you are not yet at the mediation stage.
We are mobilizing, lobbying, advocacy, and mediation are interwoven. Because our end goal is to mediate, to see all these factions sit on the table. Let there be a melting point for us to have peace. So after this, watch your script. SNOT is still coming out. But I'm not going to disclose our strategy here, but we will not be silent.
Of course, you're not going to do that. Now, Madam Tomo, now, we've seen women crying, and then it's like the women in this other part of Cameroon are not concerned about what's happening because I've not seen them mobilizing. Now, what's your take on that?
I will not agree with you that women of this part are not concerned. Because as Stand Up for Cameroon and CPP, in 2017, as the crisis was growing on, we convene women from Northwest and Francophone women from Douala, Littoral, West, Center, and so forth, and we
convention.
Yes, and we convene women from Northwest and Southwest, and I will still repeating, it was not only Boya and Bamenda, but I mean, all these really women who were sleeping inside bush. So they convene in Yaoundé to share
the experience,
what is going on the floor. Yes, why we did that? Because the information going on your media did not talk about the crisis as it must be.
Okay.
People are not informed on the ongoing crisis. We have to remind
women in this other side,
yes,
are not even aware.
Government propaganda are lying them.
Okay.
Because on that day, I remember one of our strong women in Bashia, they stood and asked to women that they've never met to excuse her, because she were when the crisis began, she was saying, you people are impeaching a student to going to school. So her narrative was only on the school, that people are impeaching students to going on the school. But when she started hearing what women, affected women from affected region, start talking about what is going on, what happened, and what
the root of the problem.
Yes, and they start saying, but they are lying us.
But now after the convention,
yes,
after sitting and saying all what you said in the convention, now where is the mobilization?
The mobilization is going on.
Actually seeing your sisters, let's say, crying or whatsoever, don't you think they too could do something in that light, or is it that the message has not gone through?
We are not only on messages.
Okay.
We are on action.
Okay.
And it is good that organization like her are doing advocacy.
Okay.
Because out of advocacy you must act.
Okay.
Cameroon is not the only country facing such situation.
Okay.
Many countries have faced it
now
before.
Act by doing what? That's why I'm coming in.
Act by the first. Let me please let me go.
It's like I'm giving you two.
Yes, I will remind you. I will just remind us. One action that women, mother of the nation took, there were about 150 who worked. It was 8 March during the women's celebration. They stand, instead of celebrating, they demonstrate in Yaoundé and have a letter and wrote a letter to the head of state, claiming that they are mothers. So the army man who is dying is her son. The separatist who is dying is her son or husband. So the head of state must ask to drop arms so that they can discuss.
On both sides.
Yes.
So dialogue can take place.
Yes. And we demonstrate. As usual, they arrested women. As usual, because that's
the women
what is not, yes, they arrested women on that day during our way of celebrating 8th of March. So these are action, and the action we are working to go to is what is clearly a demonstration. She talked about Liberia. Who brought peace in Liberia? How did women who brought peace in Liberia did? They did not just stand and say, they did not stay at her home.
There's a lot of advocacy.
After advocacy, they were on the streets. They were on the streets.
And that is where
they stood where people were discussing about the peace, that you must come out of there with solution, and they blocked them outside. Okay. So just this to mean that is physical action. Let me tell you like this. It's physical action. Sure. At the way we are now, that will bring a solution to this country, and this is where we are working on ground working, because you know what we are doing.
Okay.
Not everybody, because you are interesting yourself on what people are doing. Okay. Yes, and you know what you are doing, bringing women together, Francophone and Cameroonian women together, to stand and push to the solution. We all know the solution. We will not lie ourselves. We know the solution. So
now, Sally, why is it still very difficult for women across Cameroon to embrace the entire campaign?
If we judge that it's difficult for women across Cameroon to judge the campaign, then we are unfair to the efforts of women. Okay. Very, very unfair, because women have done a lot. Now, to first of all create space, hearing space, because most often people look at the crying with light hands, but the wailing of every woman melts the heart of even the strongest. So women use wailing in different ways to set their message straight, that they are a part. Now, as you ask concrete actions, the next stage is building movements. Because if you look at it very well, at every little corner, some coalitions too are being formed. Like we said, SUNOP is a coalition of CSOs. That's one bit. We will be joining on every other bit, and every woman in the country will stand as a mother, as a wife, as a sister, to decry the killings in the regions. We will always say that we have a difficult terrain. We need to harness, fine-tune what we are doing, have the roots on the ground so that we are not nipped when we start. Because I think from what we have done, and from what Dumo is explaining here, and other women action groups, that tells you that women have planted their roots.
A lot of women are working on the ground. A lot of mobilization from CPP, SNOT, and all other organizations.
The violent turn that this action is taking. Some of us to do monitor. When that baby was shot, we heard from people from whom we have not heard. Yeah, the error can be people were doing what they were doing on the ground and nobody was making a public statement. But these days, I see so many movements coming up as women movements and making statements. And that's why I said watch your screen, because women are about to do it. Because they can no longer take
But you're not going to review your strategy yet. Now, I want us to watch this other report. It's on a woman in the Northwest who's struggling to mobilize other women to come on board. Let's watch. We'll be right back.
I have been affected and infected all around.
She is among the thousands of women trapped by the crisis in the northwest and southwest region of Cameroon. The daily gunshots, kidnappings, burning down of villages, rape and gunning down of innocent souls pushed her to leave Kambe for Bamenda. She left everything behind, including her old mom.
As of now, since I left Kambe, this is the third year. I can never go there. No way. Cannot go there. My mother is alive. She's there crying every day that she may die without me seeing her, or I may die and she will not see me. And I am the chairperson of the Social Welfare Commission in this parish, in the Cathedral Parish. So I've been taking care of the IDPs. They are in their numbers.
She says women are most vulnerable to the crisis.
No, Pekin, calm down. Calm down, calm down.
Paying the highest price, she spends some of her time helping the victims of the crisis, mostly women.
We are taking care, you see, like the lady we have just brought now. She has just been discovered by one mama, and the mama too is unable to carry her. So myself and Ndih is a field worker here. I am of the health center, integrated health center Azari. So I'm from there. So we are now doing the job in the quarters. When we get anybody who need us, we take care and bring them to the nearest hospital, or we take them and call the Doctors Without Borders.
As a nurse working at the Integrated Health Center, she says the number of pregnant girls and women as the crisis deepens is an eyesore.
The most vulnerable case that we're having, many of them, you see 18 years, 17 years, the youngest one we had was 16 years, last time that we brought in the hospital. They're there in their numbers. Some of them, when they used to turn around, they don't want to come out that they are pregnant. They don't know, or they are afraid because they have been moving from boy to boy. They don't know who is the father of the pregnancy, so they are timid. But at times, when we look at it, as we go door to door for the house visits, home visits, we take care, we check them fine. When you see that you are suspicious, we just say, let's go to the hospital. It seems you need some checkup, but some are open. They like to go, but others,
She feels a pain for the young growing-up girl who have dropped out of school as a result of the crisis.
True, because even those school children that school is not going, most of the children, teenagers, the way we receive them in the health center for pregnancy, some come along, they don't know, some complain that their stomach is just biting, then we do them pregnancy tests. When we send them to the lab for pregnancy tests, we see that they are pregnant. And when they are pregnant like that, especially the young ones, we take care of them. We take them to the hospital because I am a community health worker. We take them to the hospital. The doctor take care of them, and most of them has been taken care of free of charge.
Even married women are not left out. Statistics at the hospitals show an increasing rate of pregnancies, even in the heart of the crisis. Can the multiple ghost towns, where couples are bound to stay indoors, account for these?
I have even married women. They are not just getting pregnant at any time because the parents don't have places to go. They are always together, and as such, they are tempted. So the temptation to even with the married people is terrible.
In the face of all this, some women have decided to step in to make their voices heard.
This time around, we have some other person was added. She's here with us. She's called Pegmia. She's all the way from Bamenda, Northwest region of Cameroon. Now, how was it? Was it really that so easy to get to Douala?
It wasn't so easy given the fact that I left yesterday, 21st, after the ghost town that was called by the pro-independence fighters, permit me call them that way. And yesterday morning was a pretty difficult one when over 200 of them came out along the Matazum Akum stretch of road, and there was a military shootout ensued there with those guys, and it gave tension, and the cars that were coming into Bamenda were stopped and asked to return until about 10:30. So we left Bamenda at about 11 a.m.
It was not really like
it was not really
now,
easy.
As a woman, how do you feel being in the crisis region like the Northwest?
As a woman,
what are the risks?
And as a female journalist, it's not been an easy task because you have to teleguide your reporting. If you're not on the toes of the Amber Boys, you're on the toes of government. And as a woman, again, it's been very touching. It's been very painful because, permit me tell you that in the 90s, I was part of, my family was touched by the political upheavals in the Northwest region. My dad was burnt. My mom faced humiliation. And, those are things that, if you see me in the movement now, it is to tell you that no one has to be behind. It was at my doorstep in the 90s. Now it's in the doorstep of another person. And we don't want it to get to the doorsteps of those whom it has not gotten yet. So it's a very painful situation in the Northwest region. And I sit here today as mother of the nations because this is a movement we created when we saw that the crisis in the Northwest region was escalating. And we needed the role of the woman to be felt. We will not fold our arms when the boys have taken to the bushes. The men have also taken to the bushes. They ran away and we are the head of things. We will not fold our arms and sit. So far, we've been able to bring together women from the Northwest region. We've brought together women from Ewo, Bafut, Mankon, Bali. We've brought them together to make them see the reason why they have to stand up. They have to be part of it. In our Friday events, we take up Fridays in black, which you think of what you feel is painful in the crisis, and you wear that black for. If you see her in black, she mourns for something. The situation in the Northwest region is not a joyous one.
Which means that as a woman, it's a big risk.
It's a big risk because our girls are being raped, the women are being molested. Your report spoke about it. It's a whole painful situation we're going through, and we have met with these IDPs, the recent of which we are doing as mothers of the nation. We are teaching them income generating activities such as how to grow mushroom. That's the only way. And we equally look at other organizations like Bayer. It does something on IDP girls, Hope for the internally displaced girls. So we gave in some IDPs for them to train in beads making, pastries, and things like that. Those are the only way we can help these IDPs while pushing on to see that dialogue comes on the table. And permit me to say that this dialogue will not only come like a spoken word. it needs to be concrete. And for it to be concrete, we will not need the Prime Minister to come again to the Northwest region. We will need them to drive to wherever they have kept the other parties, free them, and let's put the thing on the table and dialogue.
Now, you've been talking about mobilizing, talking to the women. Are they actually responding to your call?
Yes, I will say yes, and practically yes. The women, particularly from Ewo, Bali, Bafut, are always present during our Friday meetings.
Are they standing up for their rights?
They are.
Do they know they have to stand up for their rights?
They are. And on Friday, like Virginie was saying, we're going to have most of them here in Douala. We're going to be again on this same topic. We need to stand. If I'm a girl and I'm standing, then other young girls need to stand.
Okay.
Not because you don't have a child yet, you should know that you will have a child tomorrow. And if any of these children are being killed, as people are being killed today, you will feel that pain more. And if we're seated quietly, when I was traveling to Douala, my colleague told me, Pednia, it's not like we are also comfortable as female journalists. We're going to take to the streets.
Okay.
That's to tell you that the women all around are not comfortable.
Okay. Now, Sally, I want to have your last words before we leave. We're running out of time already. Now, what are you telling the women?
Women, we remain, if you are a politician, play your role as a politician. But considering the fact that our context, most of us did not take up the political role, let us come out with who we are, the suffering masses, the people who have the pain, the people who are suffering, and call these people to the table to talk. Because we need them to dialogue. We are not very much interested in which topic they are dialoguing about. We are interested in dialoguing and ending the problem, because we remain the traditional sisters of the compound, where when two brothers fight, you come back to your father's compound to restore peace. That is the stand of SNOT. We are mediators. We are hoping that every woman should stand up and mediate. Tell them that come and talk it out, because if they don't talk it, no gun gives a solution, but people talk and get a solution.
Now, do you intend to go to Yaoundé, or you want to wait for a Prime Minister to come again to Bamenda so that you talk?
I see your trick, Maureen. You want to get my strategies, but you won't get them.
I'm sorry.
But the truth is, we were at the first phase. Building SNOT as a grassroots movement, which we think we are succeeding largely. To make it be a grassroots name, not an elitist name. That's why you saw us starting from the base. Watch your screen.
And you want to have more women this other way also join in the
We want
in the campaign?
Every woman nationally, internationally, and worldwide on board. That is why we are selling this scarf everywhere we go, because we do not want violence. We need every support that we can get, and women
from the women.
Yeah,
start even from the home.
We want women, girls to start telling their stories, because it is that story that gives us the moral right to hold the factions responsible to protect us. If you lead me, protect me. If you are taking my vote, give me protection. Women, stand up. Tell your story. Demand for what is rightfully yours. Women, come and tell them to stop it. Conflict is inevitable, but violence is a choice.
Pednia, your last words, maybe just 1 minute.
My last word, and as mothers of the nation, is that let the President of the Republic first free those people. Let's come to a dialogue table, all arms down, a bilateral ceasefire. When he's asking for these boys to put down their gun, the other party will be asking his own boys to put down their gun, and let all the women mobilize. Let the girls be part of this mobilization, not just our mothers. Let the girls be part of this mobilization, and let the dialogue process begin like now.
Mobilization, just in 1 minute, what do you mean?
I mean all women, like Masali already said, all women should be on ground, from the girl child to the woman in the village, wherever you are. Stand for, tell those stories. Where these rapes go unreported, Maureen, because we don't tell these stories. If these stories are being told, like Masali is saying, then these stories are going to be reported, and they will know that they're defying our rights, and they need to protect our rights.
All right, we're talking about women in the crisis situation. We're talking about women in the Northwest and Southwest regions who are trapped in between the bullets. The program was Turn Up. Thanks for watching.